Hi, I'm Scott McFarland in Washington. In for Major tonight, we welcome you to The Takeout. In the 1975 movie Rollerball, it was dystopian. Instead of waging war, the powerful decided disputes through this violent game that was played on skates. In real life, war is not something you want to compare to sports, nor should us sports fans casually be using terms like war and battle to describe games. But there was a moment today, where there was one unexpected parallel. Just like we see coaches and players yelling at or working the refs, sometimes yelling the loudest, not at their competitor, but at the refs or the umpire or the judges. Today, it was the nation's defense secretary speaking to the country from the Pentagon, championing last weekend's U.S. military airstrikes against Iran. But he saved his harshest words, not for the Iranians, but for the reporters who've been trying to understand the impact of those bombs.
See, this is a point. This is how difficult it is to actually manage. You just watched a video of what this weapon is capable of. Jennifer, you've been about the worst, the one who misrepresents the most intentionally. See, this is the kind of thing the press does, right? We don't do that anymore. We don't play your little games.
The White House press secretary picked up from there, attacking a CNN reporter who reported on what she'd learned about a U.S. government assessment of those strikes.
She should be ashamed of herself. And that's not what reporting is. Journalism is trying to find the facts and the truth. And this week, we saw this same reporter being used to push a fake narrative to try to undermine the President of the United States.
Whether or not the administration is working the refs here today, there remain questions about just how much of a victory was actually won. Our Eleanor Watson was in the room for today's press conference with the defense secretary. She joins me now from the Pentagon. Ellie, what was your big takeaway from what you heard today?
Well, the defense secretary, in only his second press conference in that press briefing room since his tenure started, came in pretty critical of the press, criticizing the reports this week on the initial assessment put out by the Defense Intelligence Agency, details of which leaked to reporters, criticizing them for the coverage, saying that that assessment was only preliminary, only initial. He did not deny the assessment exists, but criticized the framing. The criticism of the media from there spread out to specific outlets and to specific reporters, including Fox News' Jennifer Griffin, which was shocking to the Pentagon press corps in the room, who as a whole respect Jennifer and are devoted to asking critical questions, giving scrutiny to public officials, no matter what administration is in the White House.
Some of the answers to some of the other questions seemed incomplete or begged further follow-up. Take a listen to what our colleague Charlie D'Agata asked of the secretary when he had his turn to ask a question.
He's going to know things that you're not going to know, that the press isn't going to know, and he's reflecting that the sources he's seeing are highly credible. They've given credible intelligence. They or those processes have given credible intelligence in the past, and that's what he's basing it on.
Don't you think we need to see that?
Do you have a top secret clearance, sir?
Eventually,
okay.
The American public wants to see it.
Charlie's asking about how they're measuring if this was a successful strike. So how is the Pentagon determining if this was a successful strike?
Well, the top military officer in the U.S. military, General Dan Kane, next to Secretary Hegseth today, said that the execution of the mission, how it was designed, how the B-2 bomber pilots, the fighter jet pilots, and the submarine crew conducted the mission was successful, but he said the military won't, quote, grade its own homework on the final impact of the strikes. It will rely on the intelligence community to assess the final damage assessment. One of the 18 intelligence agencies, the Defense Intelligence Agency, was the one who put out that initial assessment, but that was only initial. The rest of the intelligence community will collect other streams of information to build out a final report for the Pentagon and the White House, but ultimately it will be up to President Trump to determine whether or not the mission was accomplished.
All righty, Ellie Watson at the Pentagon, thank you.